Hello, my name is Julie Braunschweiger. I am the Senior Manager for B&N Press NOOK, and welcome. Starting off 2024 with a very exciting interview. We're going to be diving into self-publishing with Lee Townsend, our Associate Manager for B&N Press. Welcome, Lee. Lee recently joined our team later in 2023, and we're really excited to have him. He comes from the B&N family already. So Lee, why don't you just give a little bit about yourself, talk a little about where how long have you been with B&N and what role, just give a little background for those watching.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually started with Barnes & Noble back in 2018 down in Louisiana. I was there for about a year before I left and went to do all my fun things like drag and theater and all of that good stuff.
Aww.
And yeah, it was fun. It was fun. But I came back about 2021, I believe, and I was working at the big flagship store in New York for about a year before Julie captured me and brought me upstairs to to NOOK and Barnes & Noble Press.
Yeah. So working in the B&N store in Union Square must have been quite an experience.
Oh, it absolutely was. If you've worked in retail, you understand how crazy it can get, but this is like the biggest bookstore basically in the country, and it's the craziest part of town as well. So there's just so many people all the time. Everyone always wants very specialized things. It was an adventure for sure. I learned a lot though.
What was maybe your biggest takeaway working at the B&N bookstore? What's something that you really just loved about, your role there?
Yeah, well, the thing is, and this is how I've always felt about working at Barnes & Noble, is it's retail, but it still feels like it's important work.
Yeah.
I really do feel like I was helping people and making them feel like something was happening in their lives and I was affecting some sort of change. And that always felt really good.
I know. I feel like of all the things that you're trying to sell people, books are a good one. It's like the world could use more books, more reading. I've always felt that way as well. So diving a little bit into self-publishing, since that's what we're here to talk about.
For sure.
Were you familiar with self-publishing and indie publishing before joining our team?
So I was a little bit aware, mostly due to kind of the rise, especially in TikTok. Book Talk specifically, because a lot of those books are indie books right now, which is super cool to see.
Yeah.
So I had to research that for work just on my own time. Although I did have a little bit of the idea of wanting to be a writer. So I had done a little bit of research beforehand, but most of it was done just as a way to help myself in the retail environment pretty much.
It is incredible seeing, and thankfully because of something like Book Talk, seeing this rise in indie publishing over the last few years. And, there's been some big books that have been at the top of the charts because of Book Talk, but they really are indie books, which means that they're, not published through a traditional publisher. They're either self-published by the author themselves. Even an author like someone like Brandon Sanderson does self-publish some of his books, or it's like an indie publisher that's their own, little small press, working with different authors, and they all go through the Barnes & Noble Press platform.
Exactly.
Yes. So now you have transitioned from bookseller to book publisher. How has your experience as a bookseller prepared you for working in the self-publishing space and supporting our amazing indie publishers?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you think about it, book publishing is still book selling. One's just on the front end, one's just on the back end. So I've just kind of moved where I am on that line. So I'm still looking for books that I think will work for specific target audiences and what is going to be in trend right now. What are people looking for? So I'm using the information that I learned as a bookseller, and it just directly correlates into this side of the industry as well. So there's nothing crazy or different. It's all basically the same thing, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I mean, you as a bookseller were working with customers, and now you're working with authors. Right. And so there still is that experience of that relationship of working with, people invested in storytelling, and trying to navigate all of that. And then as well, we do some merchandising. So on the B&N Press team, we are submitting books for certain promotions and things. And so that experience, knowing what's trending and knowing what people are looking for, I'm sure has been really helpful, which is like, speaking of trends, then what kinds of trends are you seeing in the stores that indie authors should know about?
Cool. Yeah. So a big thing, the thing about trends is that they're trending. So sometimes trends last for like a month. Sometimes it lasts for a couple of weeks. Sometimes they only last for a day. I will say things that have been blowing up recently are like dark romance and like fantasy romance, as we can see from like Iron Flame and Sarah J. Maas. People are really loving their kind of like romance sprinkled with something special.
Jennifer L. Armentrout, that's another
exactly.
B&N Press publishing author.
H.D. Carlton with Hunting Adeline, all of that good stuff. Like that's what people are wanting right now. And the thing is, I don't want to say like go into a specific genre, but kind of just like spend your time looking at TikTok and seeing what are people interested in and looking for like the themes more so than the actual genre. So things that are expressing how we are working in our society and how that fits into these titles is something to look out for.
Yeah, I like that idea of themes as opposed to genre, because I feel like when you're working in a theme, you can really play around with genre. And so many of the books that people are interested in aren't necessarily because of the genre, but because of those themes, like forbidden romance or enemies to lovers, or one of our top genres is like women's sleuths, like it's sort of, working within these themes as opposed to like sticking to a specific genre, which is what indie publishing, I think, is so great at, is sort of putting together new things and breaking outside the mold of these genres.
Right, for sure. You have a lot of flexibility. And so use that to your advantage, for sure.
Exactly. You're not writing to what the publisher wants. You're writing to what you want, which has always been the magic of self-publishing.
Yeah.
So in what ways can indie authors maybe leverage B&N stores?
Right. So, well, we have a complicated relationship with getting books into the store, but that doesn't mean that there aren't ways for you to find your books to get in the stores. You just have to talk to local managers, and because some of them will help you out and get them in there. But also just having your name connected to Barnes & Noble is incredibly helpful, and giving yourself some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of stability within the industry, or for readers. If they're like, oh, I can get this book at Barnes & Noble, or I can order it at Barnes & Noble, rather, that gives you a sense of oomph. Like, yeah, they're credibility. That's what I'm looking for.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I think it's, as you mentioned, we do have a complicated, history of getting our we do print on demand, of getting those types of books into stores. And while I would love to see so many more books of B&N Press authors in the stores, it's not a simple maneuver.
Right.
Like you said, it doesn't mean that they can't forge those relationships with your local stores. Talk to your local store manager. Don't just come in with like, I wrote a book, but bring the book, bring some kind of sell sheet describing who you, what kind of marketing you do.
Your social media. Like, you got to pitch the book, basically. You got to be resourceful as an indie author. And I mean, basically in trade publishing, that's what the publishers do for you. You have to be that publisher yourself. But it works. I've had several times where indie publishers have come into the store, and like I wasn't able to make the call, but I was able to listen to it and be like, hey, this person did a really good sales pitch. I really like their book. I think we could sell it. What do you think? And we can get it in there. So
and if it's not that book, it could be your next book.
Right.
So establishing that relationship, coming in and talking with people, maybe even doing something like a local event if the store is open to it, especially like if you bring your book on consignment. So that's another thing that local authors should go to their stores and ask about a consignment opportunity. So that's like with Barnes & Noble, like we do have our stores, so there is still opportunity there, even if it's not a national presence, even if you may not get your first book into the store, even if it's a really bit more difficult than you were anticipating, don't give up.
For sure, for sure. Honestly, I would say, because like it really is built off of locality anyway, and kind of a social media presence. Like those are your two ways of doing it. Because like if you think about something like I mentioned H.T. Carlton a minute ago. Her books, we have those in the stores because she grew so big on TikTok that we just like had to, because people were asking for it. So you can go that route. But if you are a smaller author, then for sure those managers will listen to you, and they'll get your book in the store because they want to help support the community as well.
Exactly. Speaking of social media, actually, that is something we can talk about a little bit. And maybe like if you have any tips or tricks for, people who are looking to expand their social media presence and be able to show these store managers, look, I am, got some followers on TikTok or Instagram. Anything we can maybe relay to those watching?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we know that short form content, like video content, is really like what's been blowing up for a while now. So you've got to get on that for sure. And you can do that in a multitude of ways. I would prefer that you like have your face in there and are like engaging with your community and community building. Those are like the main things that you want to focus on as far as social media goes. You can make like nice, pretty like graphics and stuff for your Facebook and Instagram as well. But really nowadays people are looking for relatability. People are looking for someone who's like there and trying to build community, authenticity.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's looking for right now.
Yeah, authenticity, I think, is a big one. I had an author who spoke to me recently about she couldn't gain any traction on TikTok. Nothing was working. She was trying to plug her books. And then she did a video about her horses that she has on her ranch. And she sort of tied it back into her book series, which has horses in it. But mostly it was just sort of like a day in the life. And it blew up. It's this idea that like, here I am, I'm just this person and this is my life. And it inspires my books, but I'm an authentic, real person, just like everyone else watching. And I think that's what people connect to on places like TikTok.
For sure. And we can even delve deeper into that and say it's that the authenticity, genuinity thing is kind of like the surface level, but really people are looking for a story that they can connect to. And we're going to get that from you just being yourself and giving us your story. And your books are an extension of that. So we know you can write the book and you can tell the story. We just need you to tell your story as well. And that's how you're really going to start blowing up on social media.
Yeah. And I think, it can be really tough, but putting out content and putting out as much as you can consistently is really key. And I know it's hard. I mean, on our end, on the social side, putting out these videos and things like that, they take time and they're a lot of work.
But they're fun too.
But they're fun. Yeah, exactly. And you can learn new things and learn new skills. But really what's so important about marketing, what's so important about self-publishing is you are your own marketer, but you also know yourself and you know what you like. And so if you put yourself out there, even though it's scary, I know I get a little nervous when I have to be in front of people like this, but if you put yourself out there, you're gonna find an audience.
Yeah, I made Julie do this video for our Barbara Streisand video, and she was great. She has a new talent that we discovered. So
yes,
for it,
we'll see. We'll see.
Discover.
I know. Could have become like an actress or something.
Yeah, exactly.
One day in another life. So social media is like a big way. And then another way I think authors are connecting with their audiences is through things like a newsletter, which is also really important. And it can be very slow going, again, to like build up your newsletter. But these are all really important tools for self-publishing indie authors, especially if they're trying to gain traction within Barnes & Noble. We really want to look for that kind of professionalism and engagement.
A website as well.
Yes, a very good, nice, professional looking website will go a long way. Yeah, because how are people going to, first of all, when they Google you, how are they going to find you and your books and your newsletter and your social media? It really is like an important hub of information for every author. Not just these little bits and pieces like a social media site and things like that. And I think what's also really important for authors going into 2024 is really engaging with your readers, not just in, social media, but in different ways and new ways, maybe like private author groups, special giveaways. We do print with hardcover dust jackets. So you can create beautiful print books, right?
Exactly.
And we're seeing a lot of like exclusive covers and special editions. And I know Barnes & Noble is one of the few places that does the dust jackets. So, that's another way that you can sort of differentiate yourself and maybe even give a little shout out to your B&N readers.
Right. And people
Yes.
love the hardcovers, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're reading it like as an ebook. Do you want to know how many of these I've read on ebook? And I just bought it because I want to display that I read it. Like, that's a common thing. Do both. Take advantage of the
always.
system.
Don't just do one version of a book. Have different versions, have different covers. I know it takes a little bit of financial investment to do that kind of stuff, but in the end, I think it can be really helpful when you're trying to like build your readership. So let's talk now a little bit about the B&N Press experience, like as a whole. As someone newer to self-publishing industry, what are your biggest takeaways of the industry so far?
Yeah, so the thing I've mostly learned, like working with authors, and I will say that I've been also had the opportunity to work with authors being at that big store, like from like a really small level to also celebrities. But it's so awesome getting to see how scrappy and resourceful indie publishers are, and just kind of how the industry is in general. Because I feel like all indie publishing companies are kind of just like the small wing of a bigger like system, and it's really cool to see how everyone is just trying to help authors like be the best that they can be and get their stories out there. It's really kind of like magical to watch happen.
It is. You feel like a groundswell of like we all are rooting for each other.
Exactly.
It's a very supportive community, I find. And it's so innovative, like you said. When I started working in self-publishing back in 2016, I also was I didn't know too much about it. I came from a very different background in the film industry, and switching gears and like being able to help writers was just the most, as you said, like magical thing.
Right.
It just feels really good. It like feeds your soul. I love the idea that we can like, authors, everyone if you're an author, like your dream is to see your book, whether that's in an ebook form or any, in a hardcover or a print form. And it's like being able to do that, I think is really wonderful. And so anyway, I'm really proud that we get to do this kind of work.
Me too. It's very fulfilling, honestly.
Yeah. And the industry is always adapting and changing and setting new trends, I feel like, especially like in things like marketing with, as we have been talking about with Book Talk, I mean, that really was like set off in so many ways by indie authors.
Right.
And then you have other areas like audiobooks and the way indie authors are tackling audiobooks. So it's really cool to see how everything progresses, and also seeing how indie authors and self-publishers have grown so large within the industry. I go to these conferences every year, and just seeing the different types of companies now that are represented, it's just grown significantly. So it's really, really cool. But on the other side of how great self-publishing is, what do you see are some challenges, facing self-publishing authors?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you think about kind of working on your own in any capacity, you're going to have the same issues that indie authors are kind of facing right now, which is finding your niche and getting out to more people, because it's very similar to being like a content creator or like having your own like business type of thing, where you're dealing with seeing everyone has so many people that they're trying to get to, and you have to find that very small sliver of people that really want to see your product. And they're out there. It's just, you have to be able to define it really well and figure out how to reach them and how to talk to them. But once you do that, like, you're golden.
Yeah. And I think one of the, most important parts of that is, and especially if you're trying to like catch the eye of a merchandiser, making sure your cover is very professional and in line with the trends and, what is popular now, not in terms of genre like we've been talking about, but just in terms of what kind of covers are people gravitating towards. Just making sure that you are presenting your book in the best way possible. Because we at Barnes & Noble, we want to see books that look like every other book on the shelves. We don't want indie authors to feel like they are in a different space. We want everyone to be in the same space. So that's another tip for our authors. Just make sure that you are investing in a great cover artist.
High quality.
High quality, high res.
Please.
Yeah. And, editing. Editing is important, even if it's just sort of for grammar and things like that. But making sure that you're editing your book and formatting your book correctly.
Right.
Barnes & Noble has a few services that can help with that, whether it's working with a company called Readsy, who does a lot of editorial services. I know that another really popular company is Vellum, and they do formatting. So there's different areas of the business that you can work in, that you can reach out to help get your book in the best shape possible.
Yeah, for sure.
But because I know getting noticed is probably the hardest part of all of this.
But once you do that, you're good. Like, think about like Colleen Hoover was an indie publisher, and now she's like 14 of the 20 bestsellers. Like,
Yep. You never know what's going to hit. And it may not be your first book. Again, I need to reiterate that it may not be your first book, but that doesn't mean you give up. You keep going. You keep writing. And you just, you gain small readers every time. And even if it takes don't discount your audience as it's growing, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Is there a current feature on the platform that you find particularly useful to authors?
Yeah, well, so we have a lot of things that we do. I recently have come to the understanding that not a lot of you guys are using our promotions tab if you have access to it. And that's a really great thing to use. So if you have access to the merchandising tab, get on there, see what's eligible.
Everyone has access to the BOGO creator tool and the coupon creator tool. And so that's really important. I feel like if you want to run promotions and discounts on your book without being price matched to those other places, and that's something that everyone has. And so whether that's putting a coupon code out there, you can even put coupon codes in the interior of your book. Let's say you have a book that's your first in series and maybe it's free. Maybe you're doing your first in series free, and then you put a coupon code for the second book at 99 cents or 50% off, just to really get people into reading a series, which is, I think, it can be really hard to get people to stick around. But once you get them past, I think it's like around book 3, they're loyal readers to that series. So
forever.
You can use
it's
true. We have very loyal readers at B&N. It's so true. That's actually one of the things that we talk about a lot is like, once you can get them, they'll stick around. So whether that's using a coupon code or a BOGO offer, if you have, at least, I guess, 4 books, you can use the BOGO offer to sort of do that, buy one, get one free, or buy one, get one 25% off. It's important to utilize the features that you have at your disposal. And so I agree, Lee, that is probably one of the best ways to pulse, I think, your book a little bit more.
For sure.
So with that, of course, we're heading into we're in a new year. It's January, so we're in a new year with lots of exciting things coming down the pike. Are there any initiatives within B&N Press that you are excited about? I know we just had a couple of really great conversations with the team this past week.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much I'm able to talk about since we haven't actually decided on something.
Right.
But we do know that we're going to be working on the website and hopefully cleaning that up for you guys and making it a little bit easier to work through some things, as well as some possible things that are going to make marketing easier for you as well, which I'm really excited about. Is there anything defined that I'm like, oh yeah, we definitely have this coming out?
Well, I don't think we can speak to too much of the specifics, but we are, as I mentioned, we talk a lot about print, and print is something that we are looking to go further into and develop just a little bit more emphasis on our print program. So hopefully that'll finally get off the ground this year. And as you mentioned, marketing tools that we want to build into the platform to help our authors just better advertise with B&N or directing authors to B&N. I think one of the things actually that isn't as widely known. But for anyone interested, we do have an affiliate program.
Right.
It actually still exists. It wasn't something that was around for a little bit of time there, but it's back. And so I think you can reach out to maybe our support staff at bnpresssupport.com, to B&N Press support at bn.com to maybe learn a little bit more about our affiliate program. And so that's another way that authors can get involved in the B&N community. But there's plenty more to come. There's plenty more to come. I promise everybody. We're
talking about a lot of things. There's so much coming.
It's true. It's not going to just take a year. This is probably going to be a bit longer, but I'm so excited, especially now that Lee is here. We are able to really put our heads together and come up with some great new features. We're able to dedicate more time and effort to just making the platform even better for everybody.
Exactly.
Are there any initiatives outside of B&N Press that self-published authors should know about?
Yeah, well, we've talked about social media a little bit, and I think that's something that I want to continue to emphasize, like how important it is. And also, like, you can build community with your publishers, like with us as well. If you'd like, if you're going to like make short form content, if you want to throw in, oh, by the way, this is from Barnes & Noble, I'm going to repost that.
Yeah. Tag us.
We'll do that. Yes, we will take that and we will help boost you, because like this is a community project. You know what I mean? So like that's the main thing that I can think of.
You know, speaking of community, that actually just really made me think about the fact that we talked about the book community in general and how supportive it is, but authors, you know, I think not just reaching out to your readers and engaging with your readers, but engaging with other authors. And I think building your author community and having friends within the author community can actually be really important, so that you're not just, you know, sitting behind your desk writing on your own anymore. You can find other people like you who are working in self-publishing, maybe in your genre, maybe outside your genre, and building out that community of authors and friends. You can do different things. I have an author group that does newsletter swaps.
Yeah.
So that helps build out their newsletters. You know, they are saying, here's my books, you can get them for free, but you have to sign up for our newsletter. And this way, you know, you can build out your newsletter. So there's other ways of taking advantage of working with your friends, working with other authors. And I think that's something that outside of B&N Press, our self-published authors can do.
Absolutely. And to like build on that, I like wrote about this a little bit in our newest blog post for resolutions, is that finding those community groups. You can do that like on like Facebook and find forums outside of social media. Like some authors have like specific forums for self-publishers. You can check those out. Just having friends within the community is helpful to your mentality, and that's gonna like read throughout.
Exactly. And, you know, I know authors like call each other and be like, hi, I need help with this, you know, one scene and things like that. So you don't, you know, you're not necessarily shouldering the burden all on your own, whether that's reaching out through social media, like you said, or if, you know, you have the budget to go to a conference. There are a lot of great conferences for writers, self-published authors, indie conferences, readers conferences. So that's another area to look into if you have the ability and time.
Yeah. And sometimes there will be things that aren't even like really paid. They'll just be events that are happening in your town or your bookstores. Like just look around, see what's going on, get out into the world. It'll be helpful, I promise.
And speaking of stores, yeah, that's absolutely true. You can, if you come with maybe a couple of authors, that's a very enticing presentation to a store, perhaps, of being like, we've got 3 authors here. We could do a book signing, or we can, you know, do some kind of event, a panel. Exactly. So building out your author community, not just your reader community.
Absolutely.
So I think, you know, we're at a good point where we can say, you know, thank you everybody for coming. Lee, do you have any final thoughts on what we'd like, that you would like to leave our audience with about B&N Press and self-publishing?
Yeah, you know, like the main thing I just want to like convey is that we are in this together. I want you guys to succeed. It'll help us succeed, and vice versa. This is a community project, and I really hope that we can continue making things better for everybody in the future. So
Oh,
I can't wait to work with you guys more.
I know. I love that. Please reach out and on Facebook or we're on Instagram. Well, Nook is on Instagram. Barnes & Noble Press is on Facebook. That's our only social media place. But Nook is on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And we love to hear from you. And Threads. That's right. Threads. Who could forget about that? But yeah, we are there. We're ready to hear from you. We want to hear from you. We want to make, not just the B&N Press platform as great as it can be for our authors, but like you said, we're in this together and we believe in you. And we really appreciate you guys coming today and listening to us talk all things self-publishing, and check back here every month for another interview with various people throughout the industry for more tips and things to come. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of the day.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Bye. Where's my hand? There it is. Bye.